The arrival. A call for help. Captain Nolan Williams sat in his quarters aboard the U.S. Saratoga, poring over reports from the various colonies spread across the galaxy. The ship had just completed a routine patrol when an urgent message came through, the words stark and clear on the screen. Immediate assistance required on Prior Prime. Enemy invasion in progress. Williams knew Prior Prime as a peaceful world inhabited by the Prionians, an advanced but pacifist race. The message was from Grand Counselor Niran, pleading for aid against a surprise invasion by the reptilian Voxes. The stakes were high. If the Voxes took control of Prior Prime and its technology, they could use it to conquer other worlds, including Earth. Bridged to Captain Williams came the voice of his first officer, Commander Reeves, over the intercom. Williams tapped his communicator. "Williams here. Go ahead, Commander." "Sir, we've received an urgent distress call from Prior Prime. The Voxes are attacking." "I'm aware," Williams said, rising from his chair. "Prepare the ship for immediate departure. I'll be on the bridge in a moment." As Williams made his way to the bridge, the weight of the mission pressed on his shoulders. They had to save the Prionians and stop the Voxes, or the consequences would be dire. Preparing for battle. The bridge was a hive of activity as Williams entered, officers and crew members moving quickly to ready the ship for combat. Commander Reeves stood by the tactical console, coordinating with engineering and navigation. "Status report, Commander," Williams ordered as he took his seat in the captain's chair. "The ship is ready, Captain," Reeves replied. "All systems are operational, and we've set a course for Prior Prime. Estimated time to arrival: 12 hours at maximum warp." "Good," Williams said, nodding. "Let's get moving. Engage warp drive." The U.S. Saratoga lurched forward as the warp engines powered up, propelling the ship toward its destination. Williams leaned back in his chair, mentally preparing for the battle ahead. He knew the Voxes would be a formidable foe, and the Prionians were depending on them. "Captain, we have a message from Grand Counselor Niran," said Lieutenant Carter, the communications officer. "Shall I put it through?" "Yes, please," Williams replied. The main view screen flickered to life, displaying the anxious face of Grand Counselor Niran. The amphibious Prionian's large eyes were filled with worry. "Captain Williams, thank you for responding so quickly," Niran said, his voice trembling. "The Voxes have caught us completely off guard. Our cities are burning and our people are being slaughtered. We need your help." "We're on our way, Counselor," Williams assured him. "We'll do everything we can to assist you. Can you give us a status update on the situation?" Niran took a deep breath, his gills fluttering. "The Voxes have landed troops in several major cities, and their ships are bombarding us from orbit. Our defenses are practically non-existent. We've never had to fight a war before." "Understood," Williams said. "We'll be there soon. In the meantime, try to gather your leaders and any remaining forces. We'll need all the help we can get." Niran nodded. "Thank you, Captain. We'll do our best." As the transmission ended, Williams turned to Reeves. "Commander, gather the senior staff. We need to come up with a battle plan, a plan of action." In the ship's briefing room, Williams and his senior officers gathered around a holographic display of Prior Prime. The planet's surface was dotted with red markers, indicating areas under Vox's control. "Here's the situation," Williams began, addressing the group. "The Voxes have launched a full-scale invasion of Prior Prime. The Prionians are technologically advanced, but completely unprepared for war. Our job is to train them, equip them, and help them drive the Voxes off their planet." "We'll need to act quickly," said Lieutenant Commander Liu, the ship's chief engineer. "The longer the Voxes have to entrench themselves, the harder it will be to dislodge them." "Agreed," Williams said. "Commander Reeves, I want you to lead a team of engineers and tactical officers to the Prionian capital. Work with their scientists to upgrade their ships and train their crews. Lieutenant Carter, you'll coordinate with the Prionian government to set up communication networks and intelligence sharing. Reeves and Carter nodded, understanding the gravity of their tasks. Dr. Patel, Williams continued, turning to the ship's chief medical officer, prepare medical supplies and personnel. We're likely to encounter a lot of casualties, both Pryonian and human. Understood, Captain, Dr. Patel said, already making notes on her datapad. All right, everyone, Williams said, looking around the room. You know your assignments. Let's get to work. Dismissed. As his officers dispersed, Williams remained in the briefing room, staring at the holographic display. He knew this mission would test them all to their limits, but failure was not an option. The fate of the Pryonians, and potentially the galaxy, depended on their success. First contact. Arrival on Pryor Prime. The U.S. Saratoga dropped out of warp, the blue and green planet of Pryor Prime filling the view screen. The devastation was immediately apparent. Fires burned in several cities, and dark smoke plumes rose into the atmosphere. Vox's ships orbited the planet, their angular forms casting ominous shadows. Status report, Williams ordered as he took his seat on the bridge. Vox's ships detected in orbit, Captain, said Lieutenant Anderson, the tactical officer. They're engaging in bombardment and providing air support for ground troops. Helm, take us in, Williams commanded. Engage evasive maneuvers and bring us into the atmosphere. We need to land as close to the Pryonian capital as possible. The Saratoga swooped down toward the planet, its shields flaring as it deflected Vox's fire. The ship weaved through the enemy bombardment, guided by the expert hands of its helmsman. Incoming message from the surface, Carter reported. It's Grand Counselor Niran. Put it through, Williams said. The view screen shifted to show Niran, his face even more drawn and haggard than before. Captain Williams, we're under heavy attack. Our defenses are failing. Please hurry. We're almost there, Counselor, Williams assured him. Prepare your people for our arrival. The Saratoga broke through the clouds, its engines roaring as it approached the Pryonian capital. The city was a mix of sleek, shimmering structures and burning wreckage. Vox's soldiers swarmed the streets, their heavy weapons wreaking havoc. Commander Reeves, take your team and get to the Pryonian Command Center, Williams ordered. Help them shore up their defenses and coordinate our efforts. Reeves nodded. Aye, Captain. Let's move out. The ship touched down in a large square near the command center. Williams and his team disembarked, weapons at the ready. They were immediately met by a group of Pryonian soldiers, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. Captain Williams, one of them said, stepping forward. I'm Lieutenant Targin. Grand Counselor Niran sent me to escort you to the command center. Lead the way, Lieutenant, Williams said, motioning for his team to follow. The command center. The command center was a flurry of activity. Pryonian officers and scientists hurried to and fro, trying to make sense of the chaos. At the center of it all was Grand Counselor Niran, his face etched with worry. Captain Williams, Niran said as they entered, his voice trembling with relief. Thank you for coming. We're here to help, Counselor, Williams said, grasping Niran's hand. Let's get to work. Reeves and his team immediately set to work, collaborating with the Pryonian scientists to upgrade their ships and weapons. Williams joined Niran at a large tactical display, studying the movements of the Vox's forces. They've established strongholds in several key cities, Niran explained, pointing to the red markers on the map. Our forces are scattered and disorganized. We need a coordinated counterattack. Williams nodded, formulating a plan. We can use the Saratoga's firepower to create a distraction, drawing their forces away from the city. While they're focused on us, your troops can move in and reclaim the strongholds. Niran's eyes widened. You would risk your ship for us. It's not just for you, Counselor, Williams said firmly. The Voxes are a threat to everyone in the galaxy. We have to stop them here. Niran nodded, a determined look in his eyes. Very well. Let's do it. The counterattack. The plan was set in motion. The Saratoga lifted off, heading toward the largest Voxus stronghold. Williams stood on the bridge, watching as the enemy ships swarmed to intercept them. "All hands, prepare for combat," he ordered. "Focus fire on their command ship. We need to draw their attention." The Saratoga's weapons blazed to life, missiles and plasma bolts streaking toward the Voxus ships. Explosions lit up the sky as the enemy vessels were hit, their formations breaking apart. "Commander Reeves, how's it going on the ground?" Williams asked over the comm. "We're moving in, Captain," Reeves replied. "The Praeonians are holding their own. We're making progress." Williams watched the tactical display, his heart pounding. They were holding their own, but the Voxes were relentless. For every ship they destroyed, another seemed to take its place. "Captain, we've detected a large enemy ship moving in from the rear," Anderson reported. "It's their flagship." Williams' eyes narrowed. "Helm, bring us about. We need to take that ship down." The Saratoga turned, its weapons locking onto the massive Voxus flagship. The enemy ship fired a barrage of plasma torpedoes, shaking the Saratoga to its core. "Shields at 50%, Anderson shouted over the noise. "Return fire," Williams ordered. "Concentrate everything on their bridge." The Saratoga's weapons unleashed a devastating salvo, hammering the Voxus flagship. The enemy ship's shields flickered and failed, and the bridge exploded in a shower of sparks. "Direct hit," Anderson reported. "The flagship is going down." A cheer went up on the bridge, but Williams knew the battle was far from over. "Keep up the pressure," he ordered. "We need to give the Praeonians time to reclaim their cities." A hard-fought victory. The battle raged on for hours. The Saratoga and the Praeonian forces fought with everything they had, pushing the Voxes back inch by inch. Finally, as the sun began to set, the enemy's resolve broke. The remaining Voxus ships retreated, their troops fleeing the cities. "We did it," Williams said, leaning back in his chair, exhausted but relieved. "We drove them off." Reeves' voice came over the comm. "Captain, the Praeonians have retaken their cities. The Voxes are in full retreat." Williams allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. They had won a hard-fought victory, but he knew the war was far from over. The Voxes would regroup and return, stronger than before. "Reeves, get your team back to the Saratoga," he said. "We need to regroup and plan our next move." As the Saratoga landed once more in the Praeonian capital, Williams and his crew disembarked, greeted by cheers from the grateful Praeonians. Grand Counselor Niran approached, his face beaming with gratitude. "Captain Williams, you have saved our world," Niran said, his voice choked with emotion. "We can never thank you enough." Williams shook his head. "We did what we had to do, Counselor, but this isn't over. The Voxes will be back, and we need to be ready." Niran nodded, his expression resolute. "We will stand with you, Captain. Together, we will defend our worlds." Williams smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. They had forged an alliance in the heat of battle, and together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. Strengthening the alliance, building trust. With the immediate threat of the Voxus invasion repelled, Captain Williams knew that the next crucial step was to solidify the alliance between humans and Praeonians. Trust and cooperation were essential for their future success. In the days following the battle, Williams and his crew worked closely with the Praeonian leaders and scientists. The process of upgrading Praeonian technology continued, with human engineers sharing their knowledge and expertise. "Your ships are impressive, but they lack the firepower needed to combat the Voxes effectively," Williams explained during a meeting with the Praeonian Council. "We've upgraded your shields and added plasma cannons. Your crews need to learn how to use them efficiently." Niran and his advisors listened intently, absorbing every detail. The Praeonians, despite their pacifist nature, were determined to protect their world and their people. "We are grateful for your assistance, Captain," Niran said, his voice filled with sincerity. "We will learn quickly." We have no choice. Williams admired their resolve. The Prionians had shown incredible bravery and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. As training sessions continued, a bond of trust and mutual respect began to form between the humans and Prionians. Sharing knowledge. The collaboration extended beyond military training. The Prionians possessed advanced technology in areas where humans had much to learn, particularly in medicine and energy. Dr. Patel, the ship's chief medical officer, marveled at the Prionians' healing techniques. "This is incredible," she said, examining a Prionian medical device. "Your technology could revolutionize our medical practices." Naren smiled, pleased with the reaction. "We are happy to share our knowledge, Doctor. Together, we can achieve great things." The Prionians, in turn, were fascinated by human ingenuity and adaptability. They admired the humans' ability to innovate and improvise under pressure. "Your resilience is remarkable," said Dr. Veran, a Prionian scientist, as he observed Lieutenant Commander Liu working on a power relay. "You adapt quickly and find solutions to problems that seem insurmountable." Liu grinned, wiping sweat from his brow. "That's humanity for you. We're stubborn and resourceful." The exchange of knowledge and technology strengthened the bond between the two races, laying the foundation for a lasting alliance. A new strategy. As the days turned into weeks, the Prionians became more adept at using their upgraded ships and weapons. Williams and his team continued to work with them, refining their tactics and strategies. "We need to be prepared for the next Voxus attack," Williams said during a strategy meeting with Naren and his military advisors. "They won't give up easily. We need to be ready for anything." Naren nodded, his expression determined. "We will stand ready, Captain. The Prionians will fight alongside you." Williams looked around the room, seeing the resolve in the faces of the Prionian leaders. They had come a long way from the frightened, desperate beings he had first met. They were now ready to defend their world and their people with everything they had. "Let's go over our plans one more time," Williams said, bringing up a holographic display of the planet. "We need to be prepared for every possible scenario." The room filled with the voices of humans and Prionians, working together to create a strategy that would ensure their survival. It was a sight that filled Williams with hope. They were no longer just allies. They were friends, united by a common cause. The next battle. The return of the Voxus. It was only a matter of time before the Voxus returned. The Prionians had made significant progress in their training and technology, but Williams knew that the next battle would be even more challenging. The alarm sounded in the middle of the night, jolting Williams awake. He sprang from his bed and rushed to the bridge, where the view screen showed the ominous sight of Voxus ships approaching. "Captain, the Voxus fleet has entered the system," Lieutenant Anderson reported. "They're larger and more heavily armed than before." Williams clenched his fists. "All hands, battle stations, prepare for immediate engagement." As the crew hurried to their stations, Williams opened a channel to the Prionian command center. Niran's face appeared on the screen, his expression grim but resolute. "Captain Williams, we are ready," Niran said. "We will stand with you." "Good to hear, Counselor," Williams replied. "Let's show them what we're made of." The battle begins. The Voxus fleet descended upon Prior Prime with a fury, their ships darkening the sky. The Saratoga and the Prionian fleet moved to intercept them, engaging in a fierce battle that lit up the night. "Target their lead ships," Williams ordered. "We need to break their formation." The Saratoga's weapons blazed to life, missiles and plasma bolts streaking toward the enemy ships. The Prionian vessels, now equipped with human technology, held their own, their newly upgraded weapons cutting through the Voxus shields. "Captain, we're detecting energy spikes from the Voxus ships," Anderson reported. "They're powering up some kind of new weapon." Williams' eyes narrowed. All ships braced for impact. A wave of energy pulsed from the Voxus fleet, striking the Saratoga and the Prionian ships. The shields flared and flickered, struggling to absorb the impact. "Shields down to 30%, Anderson shouted over the noise. "Return fire," Williams ordered. "We can't let them overpower us." The battle raged on, the Saratoga and the Preonian fleet exchanging fire with the Vox's ships. Explosions rocked the sky as ships from both sides were destroyed, debris raining down on the planet below. A desperate gamble. Despite their efforts, the Voxes continued to press the attack, their new weapons proving devastating. Williams knew they needed to do something drastic to turn the tide. "Commander Reeves, get a strike team ready," Williams ordered. "We're going to board their command ship and take out their weapons from the inside." Reeves nodded, a determined look in his eyes. "Aye, Captain. We'll get it done." Williams turned to Niran, who had been monitoring the battle from the command center. "Counselor, we need a diversion. Can your ships draw their fire while we board their command ship?" Niran's eyes widened, but he nodded. "We will do what we must, Captain. Good luck." As the Preonian ships moved to engage the Vox's fleet more aggressively, the Saratoga launched a shuttle carrying Williams, Reeves, and a team of elite soldiers. They weaved through the chaos of battle, dodging enemy fire as they approached the Vox's command ship. "Prepare for boarding," Williams said as the shuttle latched onto the enemy ship's hull. "We take out their weapons and get out. Move fast and stay sharp." The heart of the beast. The team breached the hull of the Vox's command ship, entering a dark and ominous corridor. The air was thick with the scent of metal and ozone, and the sound of distant explosions echoed through the ship. "Stay close and move quietly," Williams whispered, leading the way. They navigated through the twisting corridors, encountering minimal resistance. It seemed the Voxes were focused on the battle outside, leaving the interior of the ship relatively unguarded. "Captain, the weapon control room should be just ahead," Reeves said, consulting a holographic map. They reached the control room, its doors sealed tight. Williams motioned for one of the soldiers to plant charges, and moments later, the doors blew open with a deafening explosion. Inside, Vox's engineers scrambled to defend their post, but they were no match for the human soldiers. Williams and his team quickly secured the room, disabling the enemy's advanced weapon systems. "We've done it," Reeves said, a triumphant grin on his face. "Their weapons are offline." "Good work," Williams replied. "Let's get out of here." As they made their way back to the shuttle, the ship rocked violently. The Voxes had realized what was happening, and were retaliating with everything they had. "Move, move, move," Williams shouted, urging his team forward. They reached the shuttle just as another explosion rocked the ship, and Williams glanced back to see Vox's soldiers closing in. "Get us out of here," he ordered as they piled into the shuttle. The shuttle detached from the Vox's command ship, racing back toward the Saratoga. The battle outside was still fierce, but with the enemy's advanced weapons disabled, the tide began to turn. Turning the tide. The Saratoga and the Preonian fleet pressed their advantage, targeting the now vulnerable Vox's ships. The enemy fleet, disorganized and weakened, began to falter. "Focus fire on their engines," Williams ordered as he returned to the bridge. "We need to disable as many of their ships as possible." The combined firepower of the human and Preonian ships tore through the Vox's fleet, sending ship after ship spiraling into the atmosphere or exploding in brilliant fireballs. "We're pushing them back," Anderson reported, his voice filled with excitement. "They're retreating." A cheer went up on the bridge, but Williams remained focused. "Don't let up. We need to drive them out of the system." The Preonians, inspired by their success, fought with renewed vigor, their ships chasing the retreating Vox's vessels. The enemy fleet, battered and demoralized, finally broke and fled the system. "We did it," Williams said, slumping back in his chair, exhausted but relieved. "We drove them off again." Niran's face appeared on the view screen, his expression one of profound gratitude. Captain Williams, once again, you have saved our world. We are forever in your debt. Williams smiled wearily. We did it together, Counselor. The Prionians fought bravely. You should be proud. A lasting bond. In the aftermath of the battle, the Prionians and humans worked together to repair the damage and strengthen their defenses. The alliance had proven its worth, and the bond between the two races grew stronger. Grand Counselor Niran organized a grand celebration to honor the bravery and sacrifice of the defenders. The grand hall was filled with Prionians and humans, their differences forgotten in the shared joy of victory. Captain Williams, Niran said, as they stood on the stage before the gathered crowd, you and your crew have shown us the true meaning of courage and friendship. We are honored to call you our allies. Williams felt a lump form in his throat as he looked out at the faces of his crew and the Prionians. They had fought together, bulled together, and now stood united as friends. Thank you, Counselor, he said, his voice choked with emotion. It has been an honor to fight alongside you. Together, we can face any challenge. The hall erupted in applause, the sound of unity and hope echoing off the walls. As the celebration continued, Williams knew that the future held many uncertainties, but he also knew that they would face them together. The alliance between humans and Prionians had been forged in the heat of battle, and it would stand the test of time. Together, they would build a future where peace and cooperation could flourish, and where the sacrifices of those who had fought and died would never be forgotten. Rebuilding and preparing. The aftermath. The days following the battle were a flurry of activity. The Prionians, with the help of the humans, began the arduous task of rebuilding their cities and infrastructure. The scars of war were everywhere, but the spirit of resilience and determination was stronger. Captain Williams and his crew lent their expertise wherever they could. Engineers helped repair damaged buildings and power grids, while medical teams tended to the wounded and provided aid to those in need. The Prionians are fast learners, Lieutenant Commander Liu remarked as he supervised the repair of a power station. They're picking up our techniques quickly. That's good to hear, Williams replied. We need them to be self-sufficient. The Voxes will be back, and we can't always be here to protect them. The captain's words were a sobering reminder of the challenges that still lay ahead. The Voxes were a relentless enemy, and the Alliance needed to be ready for their return. Strengthening defenses. One of the key priorities was strengthening the planet's defenses. The Prionians had advanced technology, but their lack of military experience had left them vulnerable. With the help of the human engineers and tactical experts, they began to build a formidable defense network. We need to set up orbital defense platforms, Williams said during a strategy meeting with Niran and his advisors. They'll provide an additional layer of protection and give us early warning of any incoming threats. Niran nodded, his expression serious. We will allocate the necessary resources. Your guidance has been invaluable, Captain. As the construction of the defense platforms progressed, Williams and his team also worked on upgrading the planetary shield generators. The Prionian shields were already impressive, but with human modifications, they would be nearly impenetrable. These upgrades should give us a significant advantage, Reeves said as he oversaw the installation of the new shield generators. The Voxes will have a hard time breaking through. Williams felt a sense of satisfaction as he watched the progress. They were making great strides in preparing for the next battle, but he knew they couldn't afford to be complacent. A growing alliance. Word of the successful defense of Prior Prime spread quickly, and other planets began to take notice. The alliance between humans and Prionians became a beacon of hope, inspiring other races to join their cause. Ambassadors from various worlds arrived on Prior Prime, eager to learn from their experiences and offer their support. The Grand Hall, once a place of celebration, became a hub of diplomacy and cooperation. We are honored to have you here, Niran said as he welcomed the ambassadors. Together, we can stand against the Voxes and protect our worlds. Williams attended many of the meetings, sharing his insights and experiences. The ambassadors were impressed by the unity and determination of the alliance, and many pledged their resources and support. "We have the makings of a formidable coalition," Williams said to Niran after one particularly productive meeting. "With more allies, we'll be even stronger." Niran smiled, his eyes filled with hope. "Indeed, Captain, we are stronger together." A new threat. Despite their successes, Williams knew that the Voxes were not the only threat they faced. Reports had come in of a new and dangerous enemy, the Targins, a ruthless race known for their brutal tactics and advanced weaponry. "The Targins have been expanding their territory rapidly," said Lieutenant Carter during a briefing. "They've already conquered several worlds, and they're heading in our direction." Williams' brow furrowed in concern. "We can't afford to fight a war on two fronts. We need to prepare for their arrival." The news of the Targins' approach added a new sense of urgency to their preparations. The alliance needed to be ready for anything, and Williams knew that the coming battles would test them like never before. "We'll face them head-on," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We'll protect our worlds and our people, no matter the cost." As the days turned into weeks, the alliance continued to grow and strengthen. The Praeonians, once a peaceful and unprepared race, had become fierce defenders of their world. The humans, with their experience and ingenuity, had proven to be invaluable allies. Together, they stood ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The future was uncertain, but they faced it with courage and hope, knowing that they were stronger together. The Targin invasion. The first encounter. The Targins arrived with a fury that took everyone by surprise. Their ships were sleek and deadly, their weapons far more advanced than anything the Alliance had faced before. "All hands, battle stations," Williams ordered as the alarm sounded. "Prepare for immediate engagement." The Saratoga and the Praeonian fleet moved to intercept the Targin ships, but the enemy's speed and firepower were overwhelming. The first wave of attacks crippled several Praeonian ships, sending them spiraling into the atmosphere. "Captain, their weapons are unlike anything we've seen," Anderson reported, his voice tense. "They're tearing through our shields." Williams gritted his teeth. "Target their lead ships. We need to disrupt their formation." The Saratoga's weapons fired, but the Targins were relentless. Their ships maneuvered with incredible precision, evading most of the Alliance's attacks. "Captain, we're taking heavy damage," Reeves said over the comm. "We need to regroup and come up with a new strategy." Williams knew he was right. "All ships, fall back to the defense platforms. We need to buy some time." The Alliance fleet retreated, using the newly constructed defense platforms as cover. The Targins pursued, their weapons blazing, but the platform's powerful shields held, providing a temporary respite. A desperate plan. In the command center, Williams and Niran huddled over the tactical display, trying to come up with a plan to counter the Targin threat. "We can't hold out much longer," Niran said, his voice filled with worry. "Their technology is far superior." Williams nodded, deep in thought. "We need to find a way to level the playing field. There has to be something we can use against them." As they analyzed the data, a Praeonian scientist named Dr. Veran approached, his eyes wide with excitement. "Captain, Counselor, I believe I've found a solution." Veran explained that the Praeonians had developed a prototype weapon that could disrupt the Targins' advanced technology. It was still in the experimental stage, but it could be their only hope.